This is CBC Vancouver News.
I came down here to take a break, and hey, I'm working harder now and on my break.
Sidewalks need to be clean, right?
A winter wallop of snow on BC's south coast closes schools, clogs roads, and threatens vulnerable people.
Their chances of experiencing frostbite increase significantly.
Sometimes it gets really deep. It's crazy high, so it's very fun.
But with schools shut down, kids of all ages will play.
It's like being back, being a child again.
And if you slip on an uncleared sidewalk and get hurt, can you sue your neighbor? Our Jason Proctor will weigh in. Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. It is not over yet. Much of the south coast is still digging out and facing another messy morning commute after that winter storm dumped almost a foot of snow in some areas. Schools were closed across the region and getting anywhere was not easy. At last check, just under 5,000 hydro customers are still without power. And as Mira Baines reports, another system is set to move in tomorrow afternoon.
Hard consequences after hours of relentless snow.
The snow, it's really hit us hard. It's really kicked us in the balls this morning. And so a lot of people are not prepared for this.
Lewis Mark jumped into action to shovel out stuck vehicles. The Metro Vancouver area was hit with up to 30 centimeters of snow.
I came down here to take a break, and hey, I'm working harder now and on my break. And it's actually shoveling snow at City Hall.
Authorities are warning people to stay off the roads due to dangerous driving conditions in some areas of BC, including in Vancouver, where drivers are not used to these conditions. The snow started falling before dawn and went on all day. Trees toppled, cutting power and sending BC Hydro crews scrambling to reconnect it. At the storm's peak, about 30,000 customers were in the dark.
The drought from this summer certainly made the situation worse in terms of weakened trees and vegetation across the province.
For those without homes, just staying dry in the wet snow is a major challenge, and it can lead to serious health conditions.
You have to consider the fact that not only is their immune system lower, but their chances of experiencing frostbite increase significantly. The possibility that they may experience hypothermia increases significantly.
The cleanup is underway, but Environment Canada warns there isn't much time before the next round of winter weather hits.
So once we get through this storm, we will have a short break in the precipitation before the next system starts barreling down on the south coast. It could hit Vancouver Island as early as sort of late morning or by midday on Thursday.
A welcome return for some who say the cold weather isn't all bad.
Hanging out with your friends and the snow, just like the texture is so cool. There's just endless things you could do, like sledding, making snowmen, snowball fights. It's just so fun out here.
Mira Baines reporting. Meanwhile, heads up, post-secondary students, UBC, SFU, BCIT, and Capilano University have announced all in-person classes and activities are canceled again tomorrow because of the weather. Online classes may go ahead, so you're asked to check with instructors and your school websites. The Fraser Valley also saw heavy snow today, forcing many people to stay off the roads there. As Sarab Sandhu reports from Surrey, others came prepared to help.
No worries.
Surrey resident Edgar Lapasuras is grateful for a neighbor like Kuljinder Lali, especially on a snowy day like this. Taking note of the extreme weather and Edgar's age, Kuljinder cleaned his neighbor's driveway with his automatic snowblower.
Actually, they are senior, right? So they can't come out, and sidewalks need to be clean, right? So people who are walking on the sidewalk, it's good for them if it's clean.
And I'm old, my back hurts, so that's really very appreciative of my neighbor.
And then there were several others like Kuljinder, trying to help those in need. Elsewhere in Surrey, despite the heavy snowfall, things appeared calm in the city, with snowplows working round the clock, cleaning the city streets. And even those commuting by public transport express satisfaction with the service.
Good. Yeah, not too bad.
He was so nice, man. Like, he saw me stop at the road, and it was my first time using the bus system. I usually take the SkyTrain to go to work. But yeah, man, I just waved him down. He goes, okay, come on down.
Wednesday morning saw the start of heavy snowfall in the Fraser Valley region, with some areas in Surrey reporting up to 30 centimeters of snow, forcing Surrey School District to close the schools in the region. The city of Surrey also announced the closing of all recreation centres due to inclement weather in the afternoon, and opening the doors for warming shelters in Guildford, South Surrey and Whalley. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Surrey.
A new winter storm warning has now been issued for inland Vancouver Island. Starting around noon tomorrow, up to 15 centimeters of snow could fall, followed by freezing rain and wind. Our Claire Palmer braved some dicey roads earlier today in Nanaimo.
Big, white, fluffy flakes and terrible driving conditions. Winter is here on Vancouver Island.
Well, we've got lots of salt, we've got lots of trucks and lots of people. This is what we do all winter. So we're keeping a very close eye on the forecast, and we're hoping that we don't get the freezing rain, but then it'll become a drainage issue.
The city of Nanaimo and Main Roads, which maintains highways in the region, have been preparing for this. The roads were pre-treated with brine and salt, and plows have been out since early this morning. But still, it's tough to keep up with the snowfall.
Well, to be honest with you, staff, we don't get a lot of snow events here on the Central Island, so usually the staff is pretty pumped up and geared up to get out there and get snow plowing.
A local hardware store in Nanaimo says that people took the last week to prepare after last week's snow, and that people kept him busy stocking up on de-icer, shovels, and car brushes.
They're a little bit worried, but then once it comes, I think they're okay. But I think this is probably going to be worse than last week, so we'll probably see more of it later on in the week when they need more, of course. But yeah.
Nanaimo Ladysmith School District called a snow day to the glee of kids everywhere. And BC Transit briefly paused operations in Nanaimo on Thursday morning as roads worsened. Service later resumed. Victoria saw its fair share of snow as well, with Victoria Airport reporting 11 centimeters.
It's going okay. It's a little bit wet and getting heavy, but it's not too bad.
Beautiful, tranquil, no wind. It's nice to see it once a year.
Areas at elevation saw a bit more, with the Malahat seeing plenty of accumulation. The snow
is good, no bad, just only Malahat snow. Yeah.
For now, many people are staying out of their cars and finding other ways to get around. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Nanaimo.
Communities in the BC interior have also been dealing with a big dump of snow. As Brady Strachan shows us, snow clearing crews have been working round the clock.
While some students and office workers get a snow day in the Lower Mainland, here in Kelowna, it's business as usual as drivers and pedestrians slog their way through this accumulation of snow that is falling as fast as crews can plow it away. By mid-morning, the city of Kelowna said it had already measured 15 centimeters of snowfall, with more expected to come into the evening. It's the first major dump of snow after a relatively mild winter, but officials say, luckily, they saw this storm coming.
When we can be prepared like this, and we actually prepared for 15 to 25 centimeters of snow up to this point, it helps, it makes all the difference versus the systems that come in from the northwest and kind of seem to surprise everybody, including us at times.
During the snowfall, the priority is to clear the major routes in the city so that commuters, emergency vehicles, and transit buses can get through. The city says it has 87 snowplows out today, as well as crews clearing away snow from sidewalks and walkways.
And I think we want to respond in an efficient manner. We want to do this cost conscious. I mean, I can send out 150 trucks right now, and within a few hours we might have to scale down already. So it's really a measured, sustained approach versus getting it done quickly and very costly.
All this snow clearing works out to about $150,000 a day. And the message to residents here is to be patient as crews prioritize the major routes before they head into the residential areas. Brady Strachan, CBC News, Kelowna.
Now, while the snowfall warning in Metro Vancouver has ended, the fun continues for some. Check out this group at Vancouver's McLean Park fighting the light and each other in a glow stick snowball fight tonight.
Families, kids, dogs, everybody's running around and having fun.
I like tackling people, and I beat like a whole bunch of people, which is really fun.
Love the snow. It's short, it's sweet, and it'll be gone by Friday.
Now, it may have been a hassle for a lot of parents and guardians, but a snow day kept a lot of kids out of class across our region. And as Janella Hamilton reports, many headed for the hills.
3, 2, 1, go!
Dozens of families and kids flocking to Ron McLean Park in Burnaby to play in the snow on a rare snow day in Metro Vancouver.
You can go sledding in it, and sometimes it gets really deep, and sometimes it's really fun shoveling the snow.
Probably to have fun because we're usually cooped up inside at school when we can play outside.
Yeah. For Razia Mohammed and her family, canceled classes means an opportunity to create memories together.
The kids have been waiting for our snow day, and this is it. We didn't have any on Christmas or New Year's, so this has been perfect, and we're just enjoying it.
And over at Queen Elizabeth Park in Vancouver,
I think it's way better than school.
That big dump of snow creating the perfect conditions for cross-country skiing. And while a snow day is filled with a lot of excitement and laughter, for some parents, getting the news the morning of can be challenging.
I had to take the day off from work to be with my daughter because we have no childcare, because the school is closed and the child care center is closed.
Back in Burnaby, it's not just the kids rolling giant snowballs.
These are the buttons, and these are his hair.
So you've got a little armpit hair?
Yes.
This group of adults building an impressive 8-foot snowman.
Just brings out the child, doesn't it?
Yeah, it brings out the child.
Yeah, it's like being back. Being a child again, it brings come out in the snow,
And even I took a quick break from work to test out my sledding skills.
That was a big jump!
Just some of the ways British Columbians are embracing the latest blast of wintry weather. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Burnaby.
Despite the fun and the snow, parts of BC are still experiencing severe drought, something experts are hoping this snow dump can partly address.
The precipitation that we're seeing right now, it's pretty exciting. It's overall a really positive event in terms of helping to offset those drought conditions. However, it is not going to be in itself enough to fully bring us out of drought.
She says as of January 1st, BC only had 56% of normal snowpack stores. It equals a water deficit of about 150 millimeters. The current snowstorm is expected to provide about 20 millimeters of snow water equivalent. It is more, but not nearly enough. No mail was being delivered in Metro Vancouver either today because of the snow. Canada Post issued a red delivery service alert, halting service until tomorrow. It says the snow poses a risk to letter carriers. They're asking you to please clear your sidewalks and driveways when service resumes. Plumbers in Metro Vancouver, meanwhile, say they are inundated with calls about frozen pipes in homes and businesses. Burst and frozen pipes have been a huge problem since last week when temperatures plunged across our region. One business says it's getting triple the calls it usually gets.
Obviously, we can't keep up with that amount of work right now, so we're having to defer a lot of calls to other people.
Lambert recommends you leave faucets on just a bit to help thaw out ice in pipes and make sure they don't refreeze. Amid the snowy chaos, firefighters were called to near UBC today to rescue a person trapped in a car that crashed through a concrete parkade. Crews say the vehicle fell to the ground after crashing from the second story of a parking garage near the university this morning. Officials say the rescue was a tough one because of structural concerns, the car was perched precariously, and the fact a battery bank underneath it was electrified.
Priority is looking after the patient, making sure that they can get out safely, that nothing falls when we do start moving a vehicle, or cutting open doors, that we're not going to further injure the person or crews that are there.
Crews eventually pulled the person out. It's not clear what caused that vehicle to crash or how badly the driver was hurt. Canada's latest inflation figures were released yesterday. We know food prices in stores have continued to outpace the general rate, rising by 4.7% compared to last year. Something one expert says isn't as bad as it sounds.
Historically, the food inflation has been very, very close to overall inflation. And this is a very different time. You know, starting about 2.5 years ago, the gap has been very broad. And as we know, increases, especially over the last 2 years in food, have been substantial. So our prices increased more. And as inflation decreased, our food price inflation did not decrease. So the gap has been remaining, but is closing. So that's the good news, is that it certainly is closing to some extent.
Wiseman says, well, British Columbians naturally want prices to go down. It's not that simple. She says a different kind of relief could be prices stabilizing to match food price inflation, but it all depends on how production costs like rent, labor, and transport change.
So, you're a homeowner, it's snowing outside, the sidewalk is building with snow, and you're wondering, what should I do?
Many city bylaws require you to clear the snow off the sidewalks bordering your property. But what if you don't? Jason Proctor has a look after this. And thanks for watching our commercial-free live stream tonight. Back to our top story now from a very different picture. The rain and snow we get is largely controlled by jet streams. Those are bands of fast-moving air high up in the atmosphere that carry weather systems across the world. Last year, our Johanna Wagstaff spoke with atmospheric scientist Rachel White to find out how jet streams are affected by climate change and how they impact our severe weather events.
Rachel, the jet stream, though, is still key for these extreme weather events that we are feeling more, like the atmospheric rivers and the heat domes.
Yes, it is still key. And so thinking about how these extreme events are changing with climate change, the way I think about it is there's two kind of separate pieces to this puzzle. The first one is, within science, we call this thermodynamic. And so it's really directly connected to the temperature changes that we're experiencing with anthropogenic human-caused global warming. And so, for example, with temperature extremes, this means we're going to see more and more intense heat waves. We're actually going to see fewer and less intense cold snaps. And we can also connect this to precipitation extremes. And so as we warm the atmosphere, we evaporate more moisture from the oceans, we've got a warmer ocean, and so then we have more moisture within the atmosphere. And so when we have these rainfall extremes, they can be more intense and dump more rainfall on us at a time.
And this is different than the dynamic changes, the big picture.
So the thermodynamics, that's pretty certain. Like how much change we get depends on how much we warm the planet. But we have this separate piece with the dynamics. And so this is connected to, is the jet stream changing with climate change? And how is it changing? And so if it is becoming more wavy, that means we could have even more heat extremes, but also potentially more cold extremes. And so that's why that's sort of a really interesting part of, by warming the planet, we could end up seeing more of these cold extremes. But we don't know that for sure. It goes back to this uncertainty about what's actually happening up there in response to these different pieces of climate change. And so that's what we're really trying to sort of get more of a handle on is, right, how is the jet stream going to change? How is the waves on the jet stream going to change in a warming world?
When snow does fall, the call comes for homeowners and businesses to shovel the sidewalks near their property. But if you slip on an uncleared sidewalk and hurt yourself, could you sue your neighbor? Lawsuits over broken bones from such calls have gone all the way to Canada's top court. Our Jason Proctor has more on what you need to know.
So, you're a homeowner, it's snowing outside, the sidewalk is building with snow, and you're wondering, what should I do? You're required by the law to clear the sidewalks in front of you because of city bylaws, but what happens if somebody slips on the sidewalk because, well, either you don't clear it or you kind of do a shoddy job of it? This is Canada, so the issue of snow removal has actually made its way all the way up to the Supreme Court of Canada. But the issue of sidewalks and slipping on sidewalks and homeowner liability was actually considered by the BC Court of Appeal a few years ago in a case that involved a man in Burnaby who was walking with a carton of eggs in front of a house where he slipped on the ice. And he ended up suing the homeowners because he claimed that the shoddy job that they had done of maintaining the sidewalk in front of their home had turned it into black ice, making it a liability and ultimately causing his injury. The appeal court judges, in looking at this, looked at the collective responsibility we all take on for the cities by agreeing to shovel our sidewalks, essentially doing their job for them. And the judges found that if you found people responsible for any injury that happens because they're doing the job, they're doing their civic duty essentially, that would be turning it into a situation where essentially nobody would end up shoveling their sidewalks, and you know, the kind of system that we have set up in Canada to look after sidewalks in snow events would basically fall apart. So bottom line, you can't be held responsible if somebody slips on the sidewalk in front of your house because, you know, you didn't shovel the right way. And if you are walking on the sidewalk in front of anybody's house in this kind of weather, be careful. Jason Proctor, CBC News, Vancouver.
There is a live shot of a snowy, quiet Whistler. A messy, snowy day across the south coast, and some areas will get more of it tomorrow. Darius will have your BC-wide weather forecast right after this.
This shot has been watched more than 1 million times.
So I made eye contact with my teammate. I ran up the floor. He threw the ball to me in the air. I just shot it. It looked good. And then when it went in, I was a little surprised and a little confused what to do. So I just stood there. And then a lot of people from my school just crowded the court.
It's O'Donnell versus Gonzaga. With just over a second left in the game, Gonzaga down by 1 point. They've got 2 free throws, and they tied up with the first. These are rival high school basketball teams. They faced each other at last year's 4A championships, and Gonzaga will pull ahead if he makes this shot.
We had no timeouts left, and I was thinking, well, we gotta at least shoot it.
The video, shot by 709 Films, is going viral online with hundreds of thousands of views.
Everyone's talking about it. All my friends are talking about it. And all the teachers in school are talking about it. It's crazy.
Number 12 made the shot, but he credits his teammates with the game. One viral buzzer beater isn't getting to his head.
I wasn't expecting that to happen ever. So when it happened, I didn't know what to do. And when I hear it, I just say thanks.
Katie Breen, CBC News, St. John's.
Go Canucks, go! Woo-hoo!
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On January 24th, join CBC British Columbia's Matt Allen as host of a special screening of an episode from CBC's Black Life Untold Stories, an 8-part docuseries that reframes the rich and complex histories of Black experiences in Canada. Presented in partnership with the Black Life Impact Foundation, the event features a screening of one episode and a Q&A session. Tickets at cbc.ca/BC.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
It's time for a BC-wide weather forecast after a busy, snowy, slow day. Darius Madabi has more outside a little earlier.
Well, it's shaping up to be another busy one tomorrow, but not looking at nearly as much snow as we got today. If you take a look, you can see how much snow we got in many areas across the south coast, and it was definitely a significant dump, more than the models were forecasting. And for many of these places, the highest amount of snow, breaking daily records for all these locations for this day. So definitely a big dump of snow. Now tomorrow, it's going to look a lot messier. Your morning commute won't look great across much of the south coast because we're dropping back down to freezing overnight, meaning a lot of icy roads possible in the morning. And then if the afternoon commute also, we're going to see, again, possibility of some more snow. You can watch that happen here. Some more snow up to 5 centimeters, maybe 10 for many areas still possible. For eastern parts of Vancouver Island at higher elevations, could be quite a bit more than that, 10 to 20 centimeters. But we're also going to see across the board this transition to a nasty mix and some freezing rain early to late in the afternoon. So going to be a pretty messy evening commute tomorrow. And then if we take a look at our precipitation forecast, you can watch that system roll in tomorrow. So we see it come to the island first, and then comes pretty quickly a pretty nasty mix of snow and rain, and then you can see it turns to a lot of snow on eastern Vancouver Island. But for the lower mainland, going to be a pretty quick transition to that rain, that freezing rain, that sleet, the unpleasant stuff that you don't really want to be driving in. That system is going to continue into Friday before finally tapering off sort of late day or early afternoon Saturday. Now, if we take a look at our conditions tomorrow, you can see plenty of sun and cloud in the forecast, but also lots of activity for the south coast. For the rest of the province, though, looking not too bad. It's not too pretty sunny with a bit of cloud, not too much activity. And then if we take a look down here in Vancouver, you can see that at higher elevations, still quite a bit of snow possible, but that ugly mix really is going to be starting around noon. So even though the local mountains will get a nice dump, which might be some good news for skiers, for the rest of us who have to make a commute, not going to be too great.
Thanks, Darius. That is your late news for Wednesday. Thank you for joining us tonight. For news at any hour, check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30 with all the latest on the commute and the weather. Good night. Stay safe.